What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the locker room. I am your host and your favorite Kansas City girl, Kennedy Bright. And as always, what is said in the locker room stays in the locker room. Get your playbooks ready, guys. What is good, rookies? Welcome back. So, in this week, I actually have a guest for us in this week's episode. And the funny thing is, this is going to be our third time recording. We've had some technical difficulties. Well, I've had technical difficulties. Like the first time, it doesn't matter. But the point is, we're coming to you and we're ready for this. Okay. Today, we will be talking about just athletes or college days, dealing with them, and just really want to give you guys more of our opinion and insight on it. Everyone, I want you guys to meet my guest and my friend, Emily. Emily, thank you so much
Hi,
for coming on to the
guys.
show.
No problem.
So, is there anything you want us to know about you? I feel like I've asked you this now 3 times because I literally have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like, that's the question they always ask, like in job interviews, like start everything off. So it works out perfectly. But I feel like this is a good topic for me to discuss just because I'm currently still in college. Sadly, I'm like a 6th, 7th year senior. Not because I'm dumb. I just money. So, but no, I'm still experiencing these things at the moment, but I've also had enough experience to be able to talk about my past experiences as well. So,
Right.
And the culture shifted and everything as well. And college has changed after pre-COVID and post-COVID. So I feel like with this topic, I can relate to the most. So I'm glad you brought me on for this one.
Yes. Emily also is actually starting her own podcast, you guys. It's dropping tomorrow. So you guys definitely check it out. And why don't you go ahead and kind of tell the reason it like correlates. So I feel like if you like my podcast, you'd like hers. That's why I feel like it's relevant to you guys. So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah. So it's called Queen of Your Court. Basically, it's going to be doing separate episodes. The titles are going to be relating to basketball, just because I used to play. So the names of the episodes will relate to basketball, but they will be elaborating more on your life experiences and life things that you're going through right now. I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I have been through a lot of things in my life. And I feel like, through my therapy sessions and my, educating myself through reading books and, even just what happens in a day-to-day life is something that I feel like I could express through a podcast and would kind of help women take control of their own life and being the queen of their own game. Yeah. Not just with boys, or women, whatever you prefer. But with your life in general, like healing your inner child or, just taking control of your mindset and your mental and learning how to switch that into motivation or just learning how to take control of your career. Cause that 9 to 5 right now is not what everybody wants. And sometimes people do like the 9 to 5. So, and I do both. So I feel like, just my experience in life and just, helping you become the queen of your own court, your own game in life. So yeah,
I like that. And just so you guys know, I didn't even find out about her podcast until literally yesterday. We were recording and she was talking on my mic and was like, "Oh,
I didn't tell nobody."
So I just want you to know this is not like a plans some people do collaborate together. This was not like an actual collaboration. Oh yeah, I'll come on your show so I could promote mine. That was not it.
Girl,
at
I
all.
wasn't about to tell nobody. I was gonna keep it a secret, so I was about to drop it because I wanted everybody to be surprised.
Yes, I literally found out about it literally yesterday as we were recording. I'm like, wait, okay, we're gonna talk about this when we get off of here. We're gonna FaceTime because I liked her topic and I felt like it just kind of correlates with what I want to do here on my show. Is why I thought okay, because that's the thing, we all have so many different life experiences and this goes into there's room for everybody and everybody's life offers different things. So even if somebody you should always support people, but even if some people, if you're worried about they talk about the things are saturated, I mean, unless you're doing the same things as other people literally, then it's going to be oversaturated. But if you're talking and doing things, creating content that's based off of your experience, your life, it's always going to be something different.
Never a competition.
Yes. So that's why I'm you guys would like her podcast because it sounds like a lot of the stuff that I do try to find and listen to, but also just because if you like the stuff I talk about on here, it's going to correlate with her. So that's why I want to talk about that.
And she's going to be a guest.
Yes, she's going to be a guest on one of them. I'll tell you guys whenever it happens. It'll be posted on the podcast, Instagram, everything, so you guys know. But yes, and she also, I'll have all of her information in the description. I said it right this time. I kept saying link in the bio last time, but anyways, I'll have it there. She also is TikTok famous too, and her TikToks are really funny. So yeah, you need to check it out. But how Emily and I met, I don't even say TikTok anymore because I mean a lot of people through TikTok, but with her it was when she bought my merch, she didn't even tell me she bought my merch. She had like, she was in my Athlete Anonymous support group. I do have that if you didn't know. That's for real LinkedIn bio. But she like told me that she had some suggestions for me, like marketing wise and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Still didn't say anything about the merch until she texted in like the actual general group chat. I was just talking about what happened that day. And I was like, wait, you bought my merch? Like what? And so that was just like, I don't know, that just made me feel really good. And so then from there, we just started talking and then realized like, oh my God, like we relate to a lot of the same like
Yeah.
experiences.
Same person, literally.
Yes. Why I thought she'd be a perfect person for this topic and just well, most of topics, but especially this one is because I feel like, you know, you're not an athlete hater. Like how some
Mm-mm.
people they'll date one athlete and then that's like their only experience. Rather it was good or like just, oh, we just didn't work out. But never people who are constantly interacting with them. And I feel like the difference is for me is we're friends with athletes. So we kind of see
Mm-hmm.
the full picture. Like we know some of them and all of them are not literally just terrible people. So I think
Yeah.
that makes a huge difference.
I think so too. Like, I had my internship with the athletic department at my school for about 5 years. And, I worked behind the scenes. I wasn't like an equipment manager or anything to where I was with them 24/7, but like I was with them doing like press conferences, game day
Mhm.
operations, like, doing press releases. Like I was there with them on that side of it, enough to where I wanted to build their trust, like
Right.
as a friend as well.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and I ended up being their neighbor, a couple of neighbors, and they're one of my best friends. But once you're there with them most of the time, and like you're there with them for multiple seasons and all the sports, you start to like, the guys and the girls, like you start to see like,
Yeah.
these are like real people. Like, and me growing up as like an athlete, like I knew that, but like people who aren't athletes and they come to this field and like they work behind the scenes, they usually come in thinking, oh, well, these people, like, they look at them as celebrities or like put them on a pedestal. But like these people, like real people, like
Yeah.
literally they're
They
there
like the
to
same
go to
stuff.
school.
They like the same stuff we do. They watch the same shows we do. Like
Yeah,
they're
same
normal.
thing. Yeah, it's nothing different. Like, and then, you, once you're there longer, you grow to build a relationship and a friendship with them. And, I honestly put my trust more into those guys that I hang out with as just friends on the football team than I would some of my girlfriends. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I hate to say that, no shade on here to them, but like, I would trust myself with them more than I would girls sometimes.
Right. I
So,
definitely like see that and agree. And that's why like always my friends have always been more guys than they have been like females. So like I
yeah, me
get
too.
exactly like
Yeah.
what you're saying in that aspect. I would say, okay, everyone knows that clearly, you know, like I would say my type is athletes or whatever. For you, like, do you think like is your type athletes or is it more so that's kind of who you just end up with?
I think it's kind of who I end up with.
Mhm.
And I'm going to explain that because, there's the jersey chasers and then there's the ones that only like search out these athletes because of this or because of that. And it's not oh, I talked to these people and they happen to be an athlete. Like for
Right.
me, I usually, want to relate to someone on a mindset level because, my career path and my life in general is not, a a set scheduled day. So
Mhm.
like it's hard for me to talk to I don't say regular, but like it's hard to talk to regular men that don't understand that. Like if I can't text you all day long because I'm going to work and then I'm going to the gym and then I have my, my brand stuff to do where I'm going and traveling for work, like, and you don't get that and you don't think that I can prioritize my time correctly for you, you
Mhm.
know, like that's not going to work out. Like, and I think most athletes understand that as well. And, the hard work ethic and pushing yourself mentally and, being dedicated to something, physically and mentally. That's really big for me because like fitness is something that I enjoy. It's not something that I do, you know, because I want to look a certain way, but because I enjoy it for my mental health. And I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of guys are intimidated by that aren't athletes. So I don't know. It's more so the mindset and me wanting someone that has the same likes as me and
Right.
wants to feel the same way and eat the same way and like because they take pride in their bodies and themselves. So it's like, why would I want someone that would look down on me for that and not challenge me as a person
Yeah.
within that as well?
One thing too, I would say I never thought about it from a health standpoint. The
Mm-hmm.
difference is like they always say like, you know, men can lose weight and stuff way faster than women, like when couples, like they'll try to lose weight together and stuff like that, and men can eat more kind of what they want because like the way they lose weight is just easier. But if you think about it, like if your husband or whoever you're with is just kind of always like, oh, well, we can eat this dessert, and you're like, babe, I cannot eat that. Like an athlete's gonna get that. Not saying that he has ever had to be overweight, but just because they kind of are more in tune with their body and knowing what change. So even though they may not relate to like women, like how our bodies are and stuff, they're gonna understand when you say like, okay, yeah, no, I really can't have dessert tonight. They're not gonna kind of like,
you are the
come on,
company you keep.
you can have dessert, and it's like, no, I can't. Like, yeah, you can do that, and you're losing weight, but it's not gonna work that way. It's like we're just made up differently, and they do kind of understand that.
Yeah, like you're sorry.
Oh no, go.
I was saying, you are the company you keep. Like, whatever your circle is whoever you're going to turn out to be like. And like most people can try to argue that, but at the end of the day, it's harder to be pulled down off a cliff than it is to be pulled up. Yeah. So I feel like if y'all are already there together and y'all all think the same way, and have your posse or your group, friend group, or even your like all your relationships and the people you're searching to be in a relationship with have that same mindset as you, and once y'all both want to better yourselves together, that's whenever you're going to be able to be your best self. And that's what a healthy relationship is all about. Yeah, there's the toxic stuff we're going to talk about in the next episode, but for right now, like that's why I enjoy it, is because we bounce off of each other.
Yes. And the other thing too, I think people do need to understand, it's all athletes are all not the same, and all of them are not terrible people. So if you're already listening, because like I said, we decided like when we did this yesterday or whatever, it was such a good conversation that we wanted to give the toxic and the bad, give it its space too. But the thing that you have to understand, if you're listening, like, oh my God, yeah, no, you're going to hear about the bad. That's what happens. You always hear about bad experiences at a restaurant, not to go there before you hear about good ones. And I feel like that's the same way. No, we are not naive. We do not think that every single athlete is great, and that's not what we're saying. But the thing is, you can't assume, you have to give people credit for
benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and that's not fair. So I don't want you thinking like, of course they're on here just like, we're not praising them, we're not like,
because there's some trust that goes into that.
Yeah, they're just such great
for
people.
Sure.
No, that's not what we're saying. No, because some people are that way though, I think, because they want to stay in that circle, they want to be with those men, so they're going to ignore all the bad and only praise all the good. That's not what we're saying. And like I said, we'll talk about that in our situations in the next one. But especially if I know sometimes with podcasts, you'll see a particular topic, and so that might be the first time you've listened to someone's show. So if you've never listened to my podcast, then you probably think that. But if you listen to my other episodes, honey, I'm talking about some of the bad,
good and the bad. There's some horror stories, and there's some times when you meet some really good, genuine men, and that's regular men and athletes.
Yes, and that's what I think people don't get. And that's the thing I wanted to clarify, and I think you agreed with it too when I was saying it. Okay, so like the difference when we say regular men is men who have never been active in like a competitive sport, and like, past high school, like that's what I mean. It does not mean that they have to still be playing in the league in whatever sport they played, but just playing at that high competitive level. That is when I refer to someone as a regular man, where they just weren't really active in sports, or I played a little bit, but I wasn't really into that. That's when I say someone's a regular man. But if he's like former college athlete, I still would consider him an athlete in the mindset wise, because the thing is, the things that I like about them and those are things that they carry with them forever.
Usually, it carries over to like their post. It like usually carries into like their post athlete life. Like, either they, take pride in themselves and work out every day, or they like to enjoy like, adventurous stuff, physically, like going on a hike, or, just pushing yourself to certain limits and being adventurous, and like having that dedication of, being able to work hard and provide not just for yourself, but for your family, and understanding like, all those disciplined things that they have are going to eventually fall onto all the generations that come after you guys. So, I mean, if you're talking to somebody now that we a little bit older, we got, it's like, we got to look into, this could be my husband or my baby daddy at some point, you know what I mean? Whether you plan it or not.
Yeah. And we need to talk about that, because I'll explain it to my mom. I'm like, I honestly never have slept with anybody that I could not see myself like having to be cool with, because anything can happen. Like, anything
Mm-hmm.
can happen. Something break, your work don't work, something. But
That 99.99% ain't, you still
yeah.
got the
So
0.01.
if it happens, like I want to be able to, like, I ain't saying that we would have to work out as in like, but it's somebody that I would see like, okay, I trust giving my kids to on the weekend.
Co-parent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I could deal with, talk to. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
very, I don't play about that one because that is true. Like the older you, even, I mean, heck, you should think that way even if you're 16 and you're active. If you're active, you should
Yeah.
still, think that way. But I do try to think more to like the future. And that is one way I say that it would be positive. That I think in the future. Sometimes we do need to live in the moment, but when you're talking about risking lives and stuff, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you're not going down the other route of terminating the pregnancy and stuff, you need to think
Mm-hmm.
about that. So
Yeah, and
that's
you halfway
definitely,
to 30. Yeah, girl, you got to think about that.
yeah, definitely,
Like
like,
it's a different ball game now.
literally. So like I said, people, I feel like I said, athletes, are my type, has always been my type. But one thing I've said that I don't think I've made clear, I've always said someone who was at least a college athlete. I've never said that he
Mm-hmm.
had to be a professional athlete. So I want to make sure that that's clear. So when we're discussing this, that you get what we're referring to between regular man and just athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I get a lot of like, it's always like, oh my God, you like athletes? Like it's a disease or
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
like a
something
weird
that
standard. Like they think you're like in like a cult or
a
something.
cult. Yes.
Like
But the
it's
thing is,
like it's like, oh, you a Kardashian, like you one of them. No, girl.
no. And the thing is, what if I said that I wanted a man that was in tech or a corporate man? Y'all would not act the same way.
Yeah.
Now,
Like
maybe
I
if I
want to
said,
marry an entrepreneur. I only want
yeah,
to be with an entrepreneur. I don't want no man that has a 9 to 5.
yeah,
But
y'all
like
wouldn't have,
they
y'all
gonna
wouldn't say
dish you
that.
when you say I want a man that's an athlete. Like
Yes.
it's just a specific job preference.
And it's always that athletes are always not faithful. They're cheaters. Okay, so let's go back.
There are some.
How many women get cheated on in most of the world? Guessing the FNF song, all of that, they're being done
Mm-hmm.
by men. How many of them are actually
Yeah,
athletes?
because the
Come
two
on.
boyfriends that I did have
Mm-hmm.
were regular men because I've only had two boyfriends,
Uh-huh.
and I have not dated an athlete, but I've been in not really situationships because I had
Right.
control over that situation. So it's like that was on my part of it. It wasn't on like them. There might have been one situation that was on there, but like
Yeah.
the two that I dated early on in my dating life, because I haven't dated anybody now that I'm older, but they were regular men and they have done me dirty probably more than, the athletes that I talked to
Right.
that I wasn't even in a relationship with. Like I got treated better then
Mm-hmm.
than I did in the two regular men that I lowered my standards for. Like if they listen to this, I'm sorry, but like, if I lowered my standards for that because I didn't, have self-confidence in myself at that
Mm-hmm.
time and I was with them, and you got played just as bad or
Right.
worse than you were with an athlete. Like at least the one with the athlete like has some sort of something to their name. Like
Yes, that's the thing. Like, no, like I just don't like it because it's like, how can you sit here and act like what they do is just so terrible? But it's so many, like, the thing is, it comes down to they're still a man and they still make
mm-hmm.
choices. So,
Yeah,
regardless, I don't
they're
think it has
humans.
anything to do with being an athlete. I
Mm-hmm.
don't, because the worst thing is, at least maybe, hopefully, shoot, if he is, messing with groupies or something, cheating on you, at least, she might be looking good. But your man
Yeah,
cheating with the secretary who looked like she used, your old
Big
elementary
Bertha.
school.
Let me stop.
Wait,
You're gonna have to edit that out.
wait, are you talking about a girl?
Just saying, like
No, no,
that's
no.
like a
There's a girl oh my God. Okay, no, no, there's a girl but my mom, my sister, and my best friend Josh, that we call this girl Big Bertha.
no,
No,
no. That's what no. In high school, we used to call like the secretary's Big Bertha. Like that's what we would be
yeah.
calling them. Like
Oh my God. No, it was funny because I couldn't remember if I told you about
that's
that
so funny.
situation. I'm gonna tell you
No,
about that later.
that's so funny.
No, it is the fun. So that's why I was like, wait, that is so
Why is
funny.
that a name? Like why is that a name that everybody
Yeah,
uses?
her
Like
name is Big Bertha. His name is Big Grizzly
that's a big grizzly.
because they're huge. I'm gonna show you them. Like they're huge.
I
But
hope this
anyway,
stays in the podcast.
oh, it is. They're huge. But no, yeah, like you look like she looked like some like, yeah, like come on now, like, so because I'm a huge person. It was so funny because when I said this and you knew what I meant, my problem is never his ex. It is
No.
always who he chooses just to sleep with. because like
Yes.
it comes a lot into why you choose to be in a relationship with somebody. So if your
Yes.
ex-girlfriend is not cute, your ex-girlfriend's ugly or whatever, I'm not going to judge that because
No, because you
it's
saw
a
them
lot
for who
more
they really
to it.
were.
Yes.
Yeah, like they could have been a bomb, like woman. Like they could have held you down. Like they could have had
Right.
a great career going. Like they could have been funny. Like you know what I mean? Like he
And
looked
she could be
past
shaped like
everything
they look
else.
like the girl off Bob's Burger, and that's okay because
Yeah,
she
that's
has
fine.
the things that you need are
Yeah,
there. But
yeah.
when you just choose just to who you choose to sleep with,
Hmm.
that to me, like that's what does it.
Yeah, and like we
That's
were talking about this too. Like what I said with that was if whoever they sleep with just to be sleeping with, like it's your body, your choice. You can do whatever you
right.
want, but it also speaks volumes on who you surround yourself with. Like if you sleep with anyone, like that shows your value. Like
Mm-hmm.
and you expect me to be untouchable and like unaccessible, but you're over here messing with these women that don't have value. And when we were talking about like high value men, you know should choose high value women because your worth is going to lower every time that you're not with someone that has the same value or higher
Right.
value than you. And like I hate to put a price in like a level on humans, but it's like if you sleeping with the walking SCD of campus,
Yes.
and
What does
not
that say
wrapping
about
up,
you?
even just not wrap, you know what I mean? Like it's like y'all just out here raw dogging anybody.
And it's
Like
different if we're saying if you cuffed the girl who was sleeping with everybody. That's also different because then it's like, oh,
yes,
okay,
because like oh
you
well you
probably
was
know
doing it
her
and
for
then
who
you
she
were like
is.
yes, like you probably look past all that because she might have been going through something and
Yeah, because I
being
don't judge. Yeah.
yes. But if you just messing with multiple females and you not either wrapping up or you're not picky with who you do that with, like
Yeah.
that is big energy transfer. Like I believe in that
Mm-mm.
so much. That is big energy transfer. Like that shows that you have no pride in yourself. Like you have no standing for yourself and your body, like and your soul.
Literally.
Like I don't know. That's just how I feel.
I'm the kind of person like me. Okay, so one problem I have with athletes is they will, and I think all men are probably definitely like this, but it only is weird to me with athletes because if I talk to other athletes and they feel some type of way, and I'm like, why do you care? Like, you're also an
Yeah.
athlete. Because I get like if a regular guy is like, oh, well, you only talk to them, like that kind of makes sense. Like, if I'm talking,
Yeah.
it makes sense, even though I don't agree with it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But why do you care? Because I'm the kind of person I want your exes, I want people who you choose to be with, I want them to align with me
Yeah.
because I don't want to look at your roster and look at the other girls and I'm like, we don't align. Like we're not the same.
Yeah. Like you don't have a type.
Yeah, like what is
Like,
going on here? Like why are we
yeah.
and that goes to also, I don't know, I think it's even deeper than just like how people, we talk about preference as in what the girl always looks like. That's even
Mm.
different. Even if he has messed with girls who are white, okay, that's fine, but I still want her to be on my
It's
level.
the
Like it's not even
value
about the
of that
color.
woman.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like what kind
Like
of
you could
person is
mess.
she?
Yes. Like you could mess like me because I'm white, guys. I'm white. So like if you're if you're watching YouTube, you see that. But if you're
Yes.
not, I don't.
Little
I
Red Riding
usually get
Hood.
mistaken. Yeah. So, but my thing is like as a white woman who does not really date athletes, but is associated with them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like friendship wise and non-friendship wise, like you know, I'm not gonna lie, I tend to look down on some of them because of the white women that they choose. Like,
Mhm.
if a man is like, well, I have a preference of this or I only date this, okay, I respect that, but why?
Yeah.
And what type of value of that type of woman are you dating? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, or sleeping with, because
Right.
most of them only really go for like in college. Most of them only really go for that image of like if they do choose a white woman, it's usually not the one it's usually not the one that grew around the same people that they grew up with, if that
Right.
makes sense.
I know
It's
what you're
usually
saying.
the ones that make them feel like they can either escape from that and they don't
Hmm.
accept that side of themselves. If they are black, not all athletes are black, but I'm
Yeah.
saying like, when they do choose that very all-American,
Hmm.
looking woman that is not different than everybody else and doesn't challenge them as a man and doesn't have that high value, they choose to date that. It says a lot about them.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're the second choice and you know that you have a higher value than that, you kind of have to look at yourself like, it's not your fault kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Sadly, the reason I think it does go, especially nowadays when it comes to black athletes, it's a huge thing about like when I say I'm not somebody's type. I mean, I do in some regards. The only way I'll ever say like in athlete world wise and be like I'm not your type because of his exes or the girls he chooses to mess with are white. The only way I would say that is honestly if the comments that come out of his mouth. That's
Yes.
usually
The
then.
why.
Yeah, that's then when I
Yes.
say I'm not your type, because I do believe you can. Because that's the thing. Me and my sister talk about this all the time. I honestly am only really attracted to black men. I'm going to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like people talk about like mixed kids. I'm like, I don't think I ever would have mixed children because I'm so attracted to black men. But I see like other races, like women, that I'm like, yeah, I see pretty white girls, pretty Asian girls, pretty
Mm-hmm.
Hispanic. Like I see them. And so I'm like, yeah, if I was a dude, I would talk to them too. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So I think you can like people who look different, like for sure. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think everybody that you like has to all
Yeah.
look the same. But if your comments, like when I first ever realized, like with one person just like, oh, I don't like dark skins, or you're
Yeah.
talking bad about,
Like what that got
why
to do
you
with my
don't.
personality.
Yeah. Then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. Now I'm like, okay, I'm not your
Then
type.
that's the
But
inner child thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely inner child thing.
It's an inner child thing.
Yeah. Or you're saying, this is why I want to hang out with you. This is why I talk to white girls. Like this or that. Okay. So now you're telling me that I'm not your type.
I gotta speak on that. Okay, that before that goes across my mind.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go.
so I have multiple men who say that about me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They think that it's gonna impress me when they come
Right.
up to me, athletes in particular,
Uh-huh.
that will approach me and are like, I love white women, like, and I'm like, okay, so why? Like, what is your reason why you only like white women, or
Right.
why? They're like, oh well, they're not as challenging, or like they're easier to deal with, or they're not as opinionated, or they're not as loud, or they're not. And I'm like, okay, so you're stereotyping, first of all, both races that you are comparing.
Mm-hmm.
You're stereotyping both, which is not healthy as a human or a man. You shouldn't be doing that. Two, I look at them and I'm like, okay, so I have every single characteristic that you're describing, but I'm white. Is that okay?
Right.
They're usually either really silent and like flabbergasted,
Yeah,
and like don't know what to say, or they're like, they look stupid and they're like, well, yeah, like it'd be fine. I'm like, okay, so you only like me because I'm white. So
right. Yeah.
Because if I have all those characteristics and I'm gonna challenge you, and I'm, and I have every single one of those, but I'm white, I can get by with it. Because you're probably, it's just an inner child thing that you have to deal with. And it's just a self-denial thing, because you don't take pride in who you are and where you came from.
And the funny thing is that you said that, because last year I did a podcast on, it was my first episode on do D1 athletes, like black girls. And I had a guy who played for Clemson come on and we talked about it and stuff. And the crazy thing was I had went and made a TikTok about it and told people to like send their questions in. And the sad thing is how many white girls were in the comments saying that because some black men, well, a lot of them, that's not true. We don't say that. And then there were white girls in the comments. No, y'all do say this. I hear y'all talk about them like that. I'm like,
that is your way to approach me and get me. Like,
that is crazy.
You don't know me.
Because you would think, like, for me, I'm like, I ain't gonna throw nobody under the bus. I'm just gonna keep scrolling. But like, they're in the comments agreeing, saying that this happens, and that is a problem that I have with any topic. It doesn't even have to be about anything. Whether you're talking about like assault, whether you're talking about how men treat women, like whatever. I hate when men say, "Oh, that doesn't happen," just because you don't do it. Okay, so the shoe don't fit for you, so keep it moving. But I hate when you try to tell women that things don't happen. And so that's why I just thought it was really impressive that I'm like, wow, so y'all hear this? And they probably hear it way worse than we do, because they feel comfortable enough to go into detail and talk about it, especially if they think it's going to give them points. Like, it's, again, it has nothing to do. It is not about like, oh, what she looks like. Like, here's the thing. Okay. If whatever color she is, it does not matter. Okay. So let me tell you, y'all remember her off of Kim Possible? She was cute. She was green. I don't care, but she was bad. So if you're going to be with somebody who's green, she looked like She can't look like, what's his name off of Monsters Inc., the little green thing with the one eye, Ollie, whatever his name is. Don't be with her. Like I said, it's not even about the color. It's about how
it's about the heart.
Yes. Well, I take that back. Oh boy, off of Monsters Inc. He was cool. His personality was cool. But I hope you ain't just sleeping with somebody look like that just to be sleeping with them. If you're gonna sleep with somebody, make sure she looks like She Go. It has nothing to do with it's nothing to do with the color of the girl.
If you're gonna get your lick back, make sure the lick is higher up than the other one.
Yes. So that's my thing. I want to know somebody who's with someone, you know what I'm saying, of a higher value, of someone who just,
Yeah.
and it's not about what they have or what kind of car they drive. It's
Mhm.
just about like the person that they are, what they're working
Yeah.
towards. So yeah, I think I am that way. So when athletes get weird about, you talk to other athletes, you should be like, cool, I'm your type. Cool. Like you mess with people of this level. You shouldn't want me messing with a bum who's on the corner. And I'm not talking about a bum on the
That,
corner, like
yeah.
literally homeless. I mean, like just a dude who's just a loser in general.
Mm. Yeah. And like the thing, like whenever they get like so pressed about talking to other athletes, I'm just like,
And I
bro,
ain't talking about even
first
their
of all,
teammates. I'm talking about just like
no,
in
in
general.
general. Yeah,
You don't
like,
even
oh,
know
you got
them.
verified, you got verifies in your DMs. I'm like, bro, I don't even want them half the time. Like,
Yes.
but it's the fact of like their mindset. I made a TikTok about this,
Yeah.
and apparently 1.8 million people agreed with me
Dead.
because men will literally, like, especially athletes, they will have a roster if they're not in a relationship, or even if they are, they're gonna have a
Mm-hmm.
roster,
They
and
are.
most likely every single girl that they either going on dates with, they FaceTiming, they hanging out with, they linking at night with, or whatever, they are usually hooking up or having sex with all of those people,
Mm-hmm.
because men usually prioritize that. With women, they can't process it. We can go on dates with all these other athletes. Just
Right.
because we're sleeping with you don't mean we sleeping with the 8 other dudes we're going on dates with. Like,
Right. We're not. We're just
they
getting
don't get the
food.
same
I'm
access
hungry.
as they do to the man that I'm really interested in.
Yeah. But they
Like,
don't get
sir, if
that.
you would just cuff me, all that would be
We
over
wouldn't
with.
have,
But
right. We wouldn't have that
that's
problem.
for
But
next episode.
no, literally. So for me, no one will ever ask, like, oh, okay, well, why do you like athletes? Like, no one ever asked me my reasons. You probably assume a lot of things. And I had talked about this in a, I think it was a podcast. It wasn't a TikTok before, how actually I really genuinely like, if I'm going to a game for someone that I know, I actually like prefer watching him on TV than I do in the stadium, because it's just so much happening in the stadium. You can't really pay that much attention.
Can't
Instant
even
replay.
know.
Yeah, if he gets out of the game, I don't know why he's at the game, but if I'm at home, they are announcing it. Oh, so and so's in concussion protocol. So and so,
Yeah.
they're examining his knee or his hip or whatever. But when you're
Yeah.
at the game, so unless he's a super high profile and they're sending it to you on ESPN, you're
Mm-hmm.
not like you might not know what's going
Yeah.
on, but you're gonna be in the know at home. So it's not about a game. That's not my like thing. Like I like to
Yeah.
seriously
Girl,
watch a
it ain't
game.
even that fun.
No, it's not. And that's especially
It's
if I'm
not.
talking about, and that's different if I'm just going to, like, I would go to Cowboy, like go to games. Like, cool. That's fun to do
Yeah.
with my friends. But
But
I'm
if
talking
you
about if
going for
I'm with
somebody,
somebody, no. So
it
that's
ain't even
why
fun, girl.
it's
Then
not.
you got to find a non-messy friend to take with you to go to the games. Because if you just go by yourself and sit, you're gonna look dumb. And
Yes.
then if you're there and you hear other girls behind you cheering for the same man you there for, you're like, that. Like, what
Yes.
did I even come for? It's trying to figure out
No.
which one's which.
Did.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just not fun. I'd rather be at home watching on TV, like you
Yeah.
said.
So no, so that's not like, so you probably assume that and all these different things or the outfits,
Yeah.
like that's really not it, but no one ever asked. But for me, like I really like their confidence. They have a very different type of, they could be so ugly, but their confidence is very good, and not cocky,
Mm-hmm.
but confident in themselves. Because like I'm the kind of person, one of my biggest fears is being with a man who's not confident in what he does and just not confident in himself, and is easily made to feel insecure about other men. Because you know how it is, I always imagine myself being in a ballroom, being at like a work function
Mm-hmm.
or something, and Sally sitting over there with her husband Jim, and he's talking about, yeah, we just, I think I put in, for that new Ferrari, or or whatever, and he thinks he's
Yeah.
so cool. Like, you ain't got nothing to your name but this job, that you have.
Yeah.
Like, I want my man to be proud. I want him to be confident and not be intimidated
Mm-hmm.
or feel slighted because of how other people make him feel. That I don't want that, because that's it. First of all, that's kind of embarrassing to me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I want my man to be a rock. I want him to be proud of who and what he is and what he does, and whatever the case that may be, whatever business he owns, whatever.
Yeah.
You talk different, but that's because I think you're used to being in the athlete world. You're used to knowing when people are trying to get into your mind, people are trying to get into your head. You're used to when they're not as confident as they're coming off, but they're trying to make you think they are, but they aren't. They're really intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
I want someone who's not easily slighted. Then you come home and you got an attitude. Well, you were laughing at his jokes or whatever. You must like him. Like,
It
what?
was
Like,
funny.
yeah,
It was funny. Like, I can't
funny.
laugh.
Yeah, like I don't want that. Like,
Like,
because you're
no.
feeling, intimidated. Like, no, that's just not going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. So I do like the way the confidence is. And also, Emily, you were saying before about how that correlates over to how they raise their children when the
Mm-hmm.
men are not as confident.
Yep. Yeah, because, I hate to say it, but whatever you're usually raised with, it trickles down.
Mhm.
And, as a woman, you get to choose who you have kids with.
Right.
Like, you get to choose who you choose, like who you want to be your husband.
Mhm.
Like, so, as women, it kind of is our responsibility to set that standard for
Choose
ourselves to think,
wisely.
you know, is this man confident enough to lead this family? Like,
Right.
yes, we can be independent and, be all great women and all this stuff, but to really live in the divine femininity that we're supposed to live in and like literally just embody in ourselves, it's a natural state to find someone who wants to guide and wants to lead, because, we
And
don't
not
know it all.
control either.
And we got to find that partner
Mhm.
that can balance us and have that same mindset to raise your children the same. Because
Yeah.
if y'all don't have the same mindset, he over here like, yeah, let's go get some McDonald's every night. And like your kids are wanting to have goals, like they have their own personal goals, not goals that they want to live through their kids.
Yeah.
But your kids have personal goals of, oh, hey, dad, like I want to be in the NBA when I get older. He really want to work to that. You got to make sure that you're setting those goals and teach your son or your daughter to have that mindset as well, to be like, hey, look, if you want to get on that level that I was on, you got to do this. Like, you got to put yourself to this. You got to eat this. You got to work on this. Like, and they got to be able to take the criticism, whether it's in sports or career field or
Yeah.
just life. You know what I mean? Like, so it's all on who we choose and how our standards are.
And also making sure that because you chose someone who is insecure and stuff, that they're not pushing their insecurities on to the children. And then
because
because
that's a big thing.
I don't want you to feel how I feel when I go into a room and so has more than me. Like, you don't want that. I feel that you should teach your children, regardless of whatever they have, they should be proud of themselves and be confident and never feel slighted. I don't think you should ever feel slighted. And I feel like with athletes, they just a lot of times they don't feel slighted. They just don't. And I think that that's good. And sometimes you learn a little bit, and not everyone probably thinks this way, but them, it's a kind of it's a little bit of a mixture, of between because there's so many athletes in the world, you have to learn early on that just because someone else is good doesn't mean that you are not good. Just because someone else has it doesn't mean that you can't also have it. Just because you learn that. But see, if you just are in just the regular world, there's this huge mindset that I think has been set probably everywhere, but I'll just speak on America, of course, because we're in America, long ago, that only one man can be at the top. Only one person can be here. Only one person can be in power. And if you're not in power, then you have nothing else. And that's honestly, in sports, you learn that there are plenty of athletes all around this world there. And you always learn that there's plenty of schools. There are a lot of Division I schools, even if you want to go D1, even if you can't, you just want to play in general. You got so many divisions,
NAIA, JUCO, and all those give
options.
the same educational opportunities and teach the same lessons in life. Yeah. And people don't get that. And, when you said, so when they're teaching those life lessons in sports, and they're teaching you that, you may not be the best, there's not going to be one greatest man or one greatest woman in that sport. But that also trickles down to real life. You need to know your value as a person and your talent and what you have to offer as a person in life to understand, to not compete with other people. You know what I mean? Like, and that goes to relationships, like in the dating field and building friendships. You're not the only person that has great qualities. You're not the only person that has good looks. You're not the only person that has, a good sense of humor or has that drive, like you'll stand out for one person.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean just because your value is less than because it's multiple, being a dime a dozen isn't always bad. And I think the world is full of dime of dozens. And so sometimes that can be used in a good, humbling way. But I think that people need to realize that. I mean, look at it, for instance, like just sports wise, like you look at, so just because Patrick Mahomes is such a good quarterback, does that mean that Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers aren't? No.
Yeah, no.
Like, that's not how it works. Or Lamar Jackson, that's not how it works.
They all have different qualities that make them great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can have multiple
Patrick
people.
Mahomes, yes, like he has his arm for a reason. Like he was gonna be drafted in the MLB. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like in Tom Brady, and he had that drive that made him want to go farther, and he had to create his abilities to be shown. You know what I mean? So it's like,
and Lamar Jackson, he has his speed that, and like
yes,
he's like a Michael Vick, you know, that makes him different.
Yes,
but it,
all
yes,
characteristics that made, yes.
He may not have Patrick Mahomes' arm, but he has things.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what you have to understand.
Yes. And all those characteristics that stand out that make them great made them great for that one specific team.
Yes.
Like if Patrick was on a different team, like say Patrick was on the Patriots, but the Patriots didn't have an offense or defense that could run with whatever he had to offer and play like against what the other team had, it wouldn't be the same amount of greatness. So it's like, you got to understand that, like, especially athletes in relationships and stuff, you know, this will trickle down in the next episode. But if you don't have that high value woman, or have a woman that has that same mindset, you know, you're not going to be a good enough team to create that generational greatness.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just going to stop with you, or it's going to cause, you know, you guys to not be able to fulfill your, and where you want to be, because like I said, your company like makes you who you are.
Yeah.
So if you have that woman that's always like, oh, why ain't you hanging out with me? Why ain't you doing this? Why did like, girl, I don't trust you to do this. Like you got hoes, like just not challenging you and just letting you do whatever you want to do, but also in a toxic way, because there's a way that you can be healthy and do that, and just let you be a man and a person. It's gonna ruin you as an athlete and ruin your career. It's gonna make you sit in a bench, and your brain's gonna be messed up. You can only compartmentalize so much.
I agree, and that's why I think that is why I one of, like, of course, the many reasons why I like athletes and why I pick them. And I use this example to you before. When I look at it, because I've shared, I'm pretty sure maybe on my channel, maybe I haven't, how I'm dyslexic with the math reading disability and have ADD. So my learning disabilities, those are inherited. Like my children can have them or they might not. For me, I struggled in school. Like it took me longer to get things. Like my dad would have to like help me and stuff, reread things. My parents were never sticklers on like grades. If you were like truly trying your best and you got a C in math or whatever, that's okay. To be very open, like I'm not ashamed of it, of course. I failed math in high school, I think every year except one.
Yeah, but I never was in college 4 times.
Like, I've done that too.
It's just, I'm done.
Right. I was never in trouble having to do summer school for math. Why? Because I was genuinely trying, but it just, my test, and at that point I wasn't even diagnosed your greatest either. Strength. Yeah. And that is one thing I would say. I get my parents a lot for the way they raised me and my siblings, but that's one of them that I'm very grateful for. We were never raised in a household that was obsessive of grade. Like, some parents like are very perfect. Strict. Yes. Like, why don't you have a? Now, here's the thing. If you are really not trying, if you just slacking off, then we would get, in trouble. My parents would say something. They weren't like letting us just flunk out of school. Like that wasn't a thing. But because they would know that you're trying or you're, putting in effort, unless a teacher was like saying, your kid not paying attention in school, they're, like that, then we would like probably get in trouble. But I want someone who understands, because the hard part is not everybody has the same struggles in life, and you're not going to know who you end up with, what kind of struggles they've had. But I want to make sure that my kids are going to be comforted and protected, because they're going to have someone who's going to understand that you can give your best, and sometimes your best just doesn't meet the requirement that, of whatever it is
of society.
So I need you to know how to talk to them and understand, like, that happens. I don't want a man who's went to Harvard, who had straight A's, who's, he was a valedictorian in high school, like all of that. And just, everything comes easy to me. Like
that came naturally.
Yeah. And not saying that a man that comes naturally can't understand struggling. That's not what I'm saying. But the reason that that's not someone that I strive for, I do want my man, of course, to be smart, because somebody got to help the kids with the math homework. I just heard what I just said. Okay. Somebody got to help them. But I want someone who is able to understand, and whatever, like understand the concept of struggle. Someone who's able to understand that sometimes, okay, it didn't work, we got to find a different way. That's how I feel. And like I said, you look at like a Michael Jordan. Yeah. You see Michael Jordan. He's one of the greatest basketball players. Everyone knows Michael Jordan. But I feel like Michael Jordan would be able to relate to his children. Why? Because remember, he got cut back in high school. He then was not seen as value. So he had to work hard. He had to go in the backyard and do things. That's he's going to understand that. Why? Because he knows that sometimes you can really try your best and it doesn't work. That doesn't mean you give up, but you're just going to try to find a different route and not be upset with your children because they're not meeting a certain standard. And also being able to understand that the standards, I think, are based off of every child. So if you have a man who, even if he was a high, even if he plays, let's say you get with a man, he's in the NFL, He's gonna know though, regardless. Patrick Mahomes, we'll go back to Patrick, but
Yeah.
because he has played on a team, I'm sure growing up he's seen kids who had to work harder in the sport. He's probably worked with kids who didn't understand, like that had to put more
Yeah.
work. So even though he didn't experience that, he's been around people who have. So he probably
Yeah.
would be a lot more understanding with his children. Whereas if you were just a natural born person, and because you haven't been around, a more diverse group, you might not know that, like, oh, some people have to, put in more work. But in that sports environment, you're with kids who are all different. That's why the mindset, like you said, the things that they do, it carries over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love it. I like the routines. I like like we were talking about the mindfulness, and that's very important, like with my mental health and stuff. And
Yeah.
a lot of men, mental health still is a very huge stigma among like men, in the world.
Especially athletes.
Yes, but now they're starting,
Yeah.
I think they're forced to realize it. Why? Because their job is depending on it.
Yeah.
So if I am not mentally, you might not see it as a mental thing, but it's starting to affect your game, and your coach and them are like, we need you to see the team psychiatrist. You're like, why do I need to go to see a psychiatrist? I don't need no doctor. But if it's affecting your game, then what happens? You start realizing, wow, this dude knows what he's talking about. So then they have techniques, they have things, and I'm learning from them, and they're pushing me in a positive way. And they understand too, being under pressure and being stressed, feeling overwhelmed. They understand all of those things because they have a lot on their plate. Yeah, it seems like it's just go to school and play ball, but playing ball is a lot.
With the way I've had my life plan, play out, I moved out at the age of 18, and, I haven't had the easiest route. You know what I mean? Like, I was an athlete and I had offers to D1 schools for basketball. I understood what it took to be that way. So like, but I chose not to go that route because of my situations in my family. Like I did not have an option to go to college, even if I was going to get paid for. Like situations that were happening, I had to take the route that I had to take. So, I feel like athletes understand and respect what I've had to do more than men who weren't that way. Oh, pity you. You just saying this like in a negative manner of, me saying, I live by myself. I've paid my bills. I've paid my tuition for the past 5 to 6 years. Like, I've done what I had to do. I've been in the trenches myself.
Yeah.
And pushed myself in that manner in a different way. And a lot of men that aren't athletes or don't have a high standard for themselves or have to work towards things in life, they see that as an intimidation tactic, or, well, she can provide everything for herself, so what do I have to offer?
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like. And I feel like no matter how much I do for myself, I still will submit or will still be in my divine femininity when that man that I meet is in his masculine energy, a proper, healthy way. And a lot of athletes are usually in that.
Yeah, I want to live my soft life era.
Yeah, like they respect what I'm doing. They understand what I'm doing. They get that my life is kind of correlated to how their life is. Like their sport is a job. They go to school. They work for their money. Like they don't just get that stuff handed to them and get a free tuition. That is a job. Like that is what they work for. It is not a 9 to 5. It is a 7 days a week,
24/7.
Yes, with school, with working, with traveling, like, and they get that I'm the same way. So it's like a lot of them respect that more and don't feel intimidated or threatened by that. And I mentioned that earlier on the podcast, but I wanted to elaborate on that since we were talking about, you just got done speaking on that, and a lot of regular men don't get that.
Yeah, no, they don't.
They look at it as like a pity way.
And because it is a 24-hour, life thing. I was talking about this before earlier in the week. I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, we'll think about it. It's easier for me to find someone who is going to align with the kind of lifestyle I want to live, who's an athlete, because their whole life is a lifestyle. It's not just a job, So because me personally, like, I don't have a problem with these things. I'm not a huge like partier. I'm not going to the club every single weekend. I'm not trying to get drunk every single weekend. I don't smoke like weed. And so I'm just not that, that's just not my thing. So if athletes, the ones who truly care about their career and really are, serious about it and care about just their body and also respecting the rules and, drug testing, all of that, they're not going to do those things because they see it's going to affect their body. They're seeing the way they're not going to do those things. My thing is, it's easier for me to find someone. Why? Because it's their whole life. It's a lifestyle thing. So they're the way they live their life will align with me. But if I got a man who's a manager, works in IT, works in tech or whatever, okay, that's cool. But guess what? yeah, his job maybe does drug testing, maybe they don't. But when he clocks off at the 9 to 5, they don't care what he does. So if he wants
No.
to be pissy drunk every weekend and stuff, he can do that.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's, that has nothing to do with it. But when you're an athlete, that all correlates. What you do outside of just practice affects how you do at practice. So you care about your full all around, which is why I'm the people. Why can't you just, date someone who loves sports? And I'm like, no, because that
it's
their
not the
lifestyle's
same,
still
bro.
different. Because once again, I like the lifestyle of the athletes. It's not actually just, we don't talk about sports, we don't talk, they don't want to talk about it. They really don't. I hate men who, oh my God, why are they not doing this? He sucks, all that. Like, I don't like that kind of comments. I don't like those kinds of things. The fat man with the belly sitting on the couch. Like, no. So it's not about a love of sports for me when it comes to who I'm dating. It's about, I like the lifestyle and the structure and the way they handle themselves.
And we're talking about the healthy ones, because in this episode, I talked about this the second time we recorded this.
Yeah.
The difference between the good and not really the bad athletes, but the one that really are there to be there, and the ones that just are there to get their check. Right. Like, I look for the ones that, when I say have the same mindset, I mean, when they say, hey man, let's go out, let's go to the club, let's da-da-da-da-da. No, man, I got practice. Like, we got workouts at 6 a.m.
Yeah, we
bro,
got
it's just it ain't a regular out, friend. Like, it's just this. No, he has the discipline to say no to better himself. Like, it's like, no, man, I'm about to go to bed. Like, I'm about to go back in the crib. Like, and it's not even going back in the crib and hanging out with me. It's just going back in the crib and saying to his friends, having the guts to say to his friends, like, bro, I got stuff I got to deal with. Like, it's season. We got practice. I'm not trying to be up in the morning hungover at practice and not being at my top level of performing. And a lot of the times that discipline will trickle into your relationship. Yeah. Like, if they have that self-discipline to not be out late at night, if they have workouts in the morning, like if they have that self-discipline not to be drunk all the time or not to smoke weed all the time, like, they will most likely have that discipline to not be with all those groupies and be with all those girls, and have self-discipline, like, in your relationship, to not just whenever they feel like they want to get some on like a road trip or something, they're going to get some on a road trip. Yeah. Like, because they're in that mindset. They have that self-discipline of why they do what they do. It's called what do they call them? Work trips. I think athletes are so used to, in a team sport. Track was not like this. This is one of the reasons I hated track and why I do not like track athletes. But from like playing soccer, from team sports in general, that you need to uplift the people around you to make sure that you should care for your teammates in general, but to make sure you win a game and stuff, you need to make sure that your teammates, your people are on point. So when you talk about that self-discipline, he's going to bring that over to you, because you're part of my team now. You're in my group, you're in my circle, and it just becomes natural for them to automatically want to encourage you. It becomes natural for them to want to, because they're used to that. They're used to, like, they don't see you as like a competition. Yeah, they're used to that. They're like, hey, why are you still in the bed, man? Why don't you go do something? Why don't you go do this? Why don't you, they see those things because it just becomes natural. That's something that they've just always have been taught. So even like, it's not even a relationship level, just a friend level. Yeah. That's how they are. Yeah. Like, I have a neighbor that has been my friend for a while, and he is an athlete here. And, he just got sick of me basically talking about how I didn't, because like, after I stopped playing sports, I got like in a real depressive mode, and I just didn't care about myself or like how I looked. But I kept complaining about how I looked and how I ate and how I did. And he's like, girl, if you just don't like do something about it, like I have the resources, like that is my major. Like, I'm doing like, and he literally wrote out a whole workout plan, 6 days a week. Like, told me what to eat, like literally would make sure that I was like, he was my accountability partner for still to this day, but he was really hard accountability partner the first 6 months of my journey. And I mean, he helped me lose 60 pounds. Like, and it's like, it's not just the relationships you have, it's the friendships that you have now. And now it's a lifestyle for me again. And I found, an enjoyment in it, because it was more so like a trauma thing where I was mad at myself that I couldn't go and be an athlete again, or couldn't go and do this. So it was like, I didn't want to go in the gym and do it, because it's like, it reminded me of all that stuff. And he's like, girl, you just got to push through that. You're just not going to be able to have kids or to have a family or to be able to do the job that you want to do, because sadly, as a woman, they're going to look at you first and be like, okay, so if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to be able to do all this other stuff? But the man, they don't look at that. But I mean, he still pushes me to this day as a friend. Like, You work out today? Did you eat enough today? Because he knows I don't be eating. So it's like, he checks in with me and pushes me, and that goes along with the other, you are what your company is.
The part that I like is the people who push you. And like I explained to you, one of the guys I was talking to, having one of my episodes, I'm just crying, whatever. And I'm like having like a mental breakdown. And he's like, Kennedy, so if you're having trouble in track, you're having trouble in soccer, you can't get out the blocks, whatever your time, what you gonna do? I said, I'm gonna go Google, like I'm gonna look it up. He said, right, you gonna look it up, aren't you? I said, yeah. Like, I'm like, why he asked me this dumb question? He said, you need to have that same mindset to everything else in life. You need to have that same mindset when it comes to your mental health, everything. If you sad, you crying, okay, let me look up, let me see what I need to do. Let me try some stuff. Let me see if this is gonna work. Let me see if that's gonna work. He said, that's what you need to do. And I was like, oh my God, not there. No, but that was the best advice I've ever received, and something that I've seriously taken with me because it made so much sense. And once again, the company you keep, the people, they're usually better at being able to encourage. And that's one thing that I do like, and I want that for myself and especially my children. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on, because we originally like had made this, like it was just one episode, and we were going to start talking about like the crazy stories and all of that, and more basically the negative sides of it. I cannot wait for part 2, because we want to give a lot of room for the drama.
We was nice today. We let some stuff slide.
Thank you so much, Emily, for coming on.
No problem.
All of her stuff, of course, will be in the description below. And be sure to check out her podcast. I'll be sure to let you guys know whenever it drops. Thank you so much, girl.
Yes, no problem.